Hey everybody, welcome back to Decks and Bytes. Today we are going to be talking about Star Wars Unlimited. And I kind of just wanted to touch base about this particular TCG. I have been playing since the middle of February, so not too long. So this is going to be coming from a new player perspective and what I think the bans kind of did to the game. So I've been very fortunate to have played at multiple different levels over the last 2 months, from store events to showdowns to pre-releases. So I've had a lot of variety to offer a lot of different perspectives. Now, the first leader that I chose to play when I started playing this was Django. So I think that that gives me a little bit of a deeper insight when it comes to this topic, simply because I had got Django, and then on top of that, I had invested into getting the cards that support Django. So this ban directly affects me because I only had one deck being new to the game to be able to use. So the first thing that I would like to get into is what this ban means for the current meta. So from what I am seeing online is that this ban has really divided the community. And what I mean by that is some individuals love that Django was banned and that TDR and DJ was also removed. You have one half of the argument that is saying that this ban has really opened up the meta and made it more diverse, that more leaders are now able to be played and have the opportunity to win. And that moving forward, we're going to see a more diverse meta. And their perspective is that this makes the game healthier because of the diversity and kind of the love being shared throughout. Unlike when you had Django in the format, he tended to dominate all of the events at the top of the leaderboard because of his strengths, and also his win to loss ratio was very high. And I can see from that perspective why that might be a benefit. The other half of the argument, based off of what I'm seeing online and locally talking to people, is that this has actually discouraged people from playing Star Wars and caused people to take a step back or possibly even step away. And the reason for that is because maybe they were invested into Django and they purchased the TDRs and they wanted to play the best deck possible. And then now this ban came about right after a set release, and now their investment is not going to be able to see return until the next format comes out. So they're going to have to sit on these cards and lose value because of the bans, and then purchase new cards to make new decks with new leaders, because unfortunately there isn't a option that you can just swap out leaders and continue playing a very similar style and be competitive. Here is my perspective on this whole situation, given both sides. I think a healthy meta is very necessary for TCGs. There's always going to be decks that are better than others, and that's in any game. But here is my issue with it all. And as I said, Django was my only leader. So now I am in this same boat where I invested into the cards in the middle of February. I kind of got a month and a half of play. My frustration is not that the meta is not going to be healthier. My issue is on the side of the people that invested and now have seen diminishing value on their investments, because FFG should have done more playtesting and they should have foreseen this happening before they released the new set. That is just my perspective from an outside player slash new player, is that I wish they would have done more testing and potentially either delayed the release of certain cards or changed the wording of certain cards so that this didn't happen. And that kind of leads us into the second point here, is that the impact that this is going to have for new and returning players is going to depend on when they came into the game. If they come into after the ban, they're never going to feel the frustration of that. So they're probably going to experience a more robust game that has a more diverse meta, and they're probably going to be more enjoyable for them. But for somebody that came into the game recently and then experiences the ban, I think that's going to push those players back or cause existing players that were all in on Django to now take a step away, simply due to the fact that it seems every time a new set is released, a leader is going to get banned. Not to say that's true, but you had Boba, he got banned. And then now this set, you have Django. The question is the answer always going to be, when a deck gets too good, just to ban the leader? If that is the solution, then it pushes people out of the game because they're less likely to want to invest into it And then on top of that, you add meta shifts that are going to happen naturally with the formats changing next year. So when sets rotate out, then other leaders are going to get pushed up naturally. Now, I'm not saying that Django shouldn't have been banned because he was extremely good, but the FFG should have been more knowledgeable about this and play tested this more to prevent this from ever occurring. That is just my perspective on this point. Now, for me, I really enjoy the game. I think that this is an amazing game. And I think that it has a lot of potential. The community's been in tremendous support. And not only that, but the barrier to get into the game was not very hard. Simply due to cost, you could get a competitive deck for a reasonable price. I'm from the perspective of you want to make the game enjoyable, but you also have to consider all aspects. I don't know how much consideration went into this. It seemed like they waited a long time to ban DJ. A lot of people wanted it for a while, and it seemed like it just happened now. Another point I would like to make is that currently Quinlan is the best leader within the meta. I think that Quinlan has a lot of potential and is really good. I don't think that there's another deck that is within that same tier that I've seen. The playtesting that I've done, Quinlan just dominates. But there's still concern and why I believe people are hesitant to invest in the Quinlan. If you are a newish player, or if you're on the fence, if you really want to continue playing and this ban kind of pushed you out or made you take a step back, what I think that the people that already have the cards to make the deck or maybe missing a couple pieces, they'll probably purchase those and just make the deck. But the ones that have to start fresh, like myself, where I would have to purchase majority of the deck, is kind of pumping the brakes and reconsidering it because there's already been discussions and I've seen people mention that there's a belief that Quinlan could potentially be the next leader to be banned. And I understand you don't want it to be one leader dominating the whole meta and then everybody playing that one leader. And that's the only thing you see. And it's over and over and over and over again, the same leader. I get that because everybody's going to naturally shift to the best possible deck. But having continuous talks of banning cards, getting rid of cards, and saying, well, this is the current best deck, but it could get banned soon. That comes down to playtesting. If FFG is playtesting these games properly, then they're going to playtest all aspects and build as many decks as possible and get as many combinations to either limit the release of certain cards so that those counters can be created, or they are going to shift the wording of the card to make it not as good. So the example with the most recent set, Django's ability of being able to do damage and then exhaust the unit by them doing damage. And then you're going to release a set that's very damage heavy and has a lot of indirect damage. Naturally, that was going to be a busted combination. So now you go to Quinlan, and it just seems like constantly going to shift. So we had Boba, then it shifted. Then we had Django, and it shifted. Is the next set going to be released, and then we're going to ban Quinlan, or is Quinlan going to get banned at all? Whatever the case may be. So I think the fear and the insecurity is going to lead to a lot of division. I think the people that had invested into the game and have a lot of options and had multiple decks, this isn't going to really affect them. Or new players that get in after the ban, it's probably not going to affect them either because they never experienced the previous bans. But for people that are in this middle ground, like myself, or only had one main deck, and that's all they invested into. And if they only have limited amount of funds to invest into a deck and then that deck got removed, I think those people are going to be less likely to want to continue playing. For myself, this game is very enjoyable. I would like to continue playing. My direction moving forward is that I am just going to purchase the cards to shift gears to a different leader because I really enjoy the game and I think that it has a lot of potential. The other thing that these bans do is that it diminishes the collector value in the fact that Star Wars was already in a weird space because when Star Wars initially came out set one, it had a lot of hype behind it. And that hype caused product to sell out really fast and it wasn't able to get, and scarcity caused demand. So in set two, they try to manage it, but there was still the residual hype of set one. And also there was value in investing into it simply due to the collector value. Then in set three, they absolutely printed it to the moon and it tanked the market on that set. And so the collectors kind of stepped away. When the collectors step away from the game, the value of the cards diminish and the game tends to not be as valuable because now you don't have people buying sets to collect them anymore. And that causes the player base alone cannot support a TCG. If you don't have any collector aspect of it, then it kind of pushes people out of the game. Now you have these Carbonite boxes that are going to be kind of the collector investment side of things. And then the regular booster boxes are for the player/collectors. And I'm not against the Carbonite boxes. I think that that offered a lot of variety and it gave people choices. If they wanted the more rare cards, then they could go ahead and spend the extra money to get it. Now, going back to the release of last month, when it was announced, most boxes were selling around $134 back in January. Then, as it got closer to release, it continued to dip down. And then on release weekend, it was $80 a box. And now we've seen it kind of dip down to about $75 a box. What you would like to see with TCGs is that the boxes start out a little bit higher than MSRP on release and then gradually over time go down. Now on release weekend, Carbonite boxes were at 287 and they've kind of mellowed down to 265. And so you could say, well, that shows good sign. But I think that that's a little bit of uncertainty within the market. And then you add on the fact of these bans. What is that going to bring about? I'm not completely sure. I know the people that I'm speaking with feel kind of uncertain. All right, so let's shift gears and get into the pros and cons of starting to play the game. The pros of this game is that the mechanics of the game is very strong. If you like that two-lane, turn-based, head-to-head, kind of different type of resource system and also gameplay, then you're probably going to really like this game. Another big pro of this is the IP. A lot of people like Star Wars. Star Wars is iconic to the culture and it has a big fan base. So that's a very big pro to draw people into the game. Another big pro is the fact that they have quite a diverse organized play. They have quite a few places that support it. They have a lot of different types of events as far as local events, pre-releases, showdowns, PQs, and things like that as well. Also, another optimistic point is the fact that they've already expanded the roadmap out so that you know the next coming sets and you already know that they plan to make those sets. So they already see optimism. Another pro is that the game is currently in a very good spot as far as meta goes. So that might be a pro for you because you have a lot of different options and a lot of different leaders could potentially be played. Now let's kind of get into the cons. The first con is the game manufacturer / designer. With it being FFG, they have a very strong history of discontinuing games. The average life of a FFG game is 4 to 6 years. Now that could be maybe not as strong of a con or could be greater, depending on how you look at it. The first being that most TCGs struggle to get past 2 years. The fear is that we're already going into year 2. Will this game be able to survive with the diminishing player base? And are they going to be able to recruit enough new players to continue the growth of the game? That's yet to be seen because we just had these bans happen, as well as we haven't yet had the quote unquote big championship that's going to be taking place in Vegas this summer. I think that's going to open a lot of eyes to see the true growth of the game, how many people show up, how big the event is, etc. Another con to point out is this game is part of the Disney family, and Disney has Lorcana and it now has Star Wars. If Disney shifts its priority to Lorcana and focuses less on Star Wars, that could affect the game. The last con that I bring up is a lot of people have been frustrated with the quality of the cards, where they're speaking to the fact that foilers are causing damage to the cards. That could be something to consider if you care about the quality of the product and the cards and the foils and how the foils are not the highest quality. That might affect your decision as well. So what does this all mean? I think that Star Wars has an amazing potential to be a really good TCG. I think that it could last for a very long time. As I've already said, what my plan is that I'm going to just shift gears post-band and I'm going to go to a new leader and I'm going to get some new cards to play the new leader. Now, we'll see what the next release and then the release after. I think the biggest indicator is going to be where the state of the game is at the end of this year. I just really hope that they take their time, refocus themselves, and really put time and investment into the playtesting aspect and see where that leads the game. And I think if they just focus on keeping the core and the fundamentals of the game and staying true to themselves, I think there's a lot of potential and growth for the game. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know below what you guys think about the bans, if you're loving or hating it, if you guys are staying or leaving. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Thank you.